Good morning. Welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting of the Toowoomba Regional Council. This meeting is open to the public and will also be live streamed. I would like to thank all those who are in the room with us today and acknowledge everyone watching via Council's social media channels. I will remind councillors to click in to join meeting on Broadview. In opening this meeting, I wish to acknowledge the Aboriginal parties whose songlines traverse these lands we meet on today. The Western Waka Waka people, the Gibel, Jarrawa peoples, and pay respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, for they hold the knowledge, the rich traditions, bold ambitions of Australia's first people. Attendance today, we do have an apology from Councillor Edwina Farquhar. We do need a motion that the apology for non-attendance from Councillor Edwina Farquhar be accepted. Do I have somebody? Move Councillor Kerry Shine, seconded by Councillor Melissa Taylor. All those in favour, please. Thank you, carried. There is also a note of leave of absence from Councillor Rebecca Vonoff, so no resolution is required for this. Declarations of prescribed conflict of interest and declarable conflict of interest, there are nil advised, so if something crops up during the meeting, please make that aware to us all. I will hand over now to GM Ed Johnson, who is Head of Planning, and he will go through the motion that will be put forward shortly relating to charges, resolution number 7. But before I do so, just welcome CEO Sal in our presence and all those in the room as well. Over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Chair, and through the Chair, this report, the Adopted Infrastructure Charges Resolution number 7, is effectively a BAU operation of Council where we look to, as the state updates Schedule 16 of the planning regulation to incorporate changes to the maximum adopted charge. Council follows suit with that to make sure that we're in lockstep with the state government through this. It relates to the trunk infrastructure charges that Council collects as part of development within the region. Thank you.
Thanks, GM Ed. Any questions from the floor regarding that? None. Councillor Shine?
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Ed. Just in relation to these types of charges, for the benefit of people listening or watching the presentation today, roughly what percentage of the amounts that Council can charge reflects the total cost of trunk infrastructure?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Chair, LGAQ did a lot of research on this particular topic on the lead into the state election. And whilst I don't have the specific figures to hand for perhaps Toowoomba, what I will say is at a statewide level, the infrastructure charges notices that Council levies collects about 40% of the actual cost of the trunk infrastructure, the total trunk infrastructure cost. So Council picks up the 60% balance through our other work. And so that's why this sort of resolution here is quite important in terms of making sure that we continue to be in alignment with the state legislation on this to ensure that we collect as much as we can from a fair value perspective to allow for the delivery of trunk infrastructure region that supports the growth of Toowoomba into the long term.
Any further questions? If not, I'll ask somebody to move the motion that the Council adopt Charges Resolution number 7, Attachment 1, to take effect on the 19th of August 2025. Mayor McDonald's moved. Seconder, Councillor Tim McMahon. All those in favour? Unanimous, so carried. We'll move on to part 4 of our program, which is the Regional Development Statistics Report, June 2025. I'll hand over to the author, GM Ed Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. And very briefly for me, I will take the report as read, but of course, happy to take any questions. I will point out that within graph 10, which is towards the very back of the report before you, I thought it would be noteworthy to point out that new dwellings and extensions make up, I guess, the lion's share of building activity within the region from a numbers perspective. But very importantly, through that, when you look at the construction value within section 5.5, we have a very important industrial and commercial building sector that from a gross value perspective makes up a very large portion of the total value of construction work. So I thought that would be noteworthy for today. As a piece of information, perhaps for council, everything else is fairly well a continuation of existing trends.
Any questions for GM Ed? If not, I'll ask somebody to move the motion that the report for the General Manager, Planning and Development Group on the regional development statistics for June 2025 be noted by Council. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Kerry Shine, seconded Councillor Bill Cale. All those in favour, please. Carried, it's unanimous. Thank you. We will move on to part 5, which is requiring a closing of the meeting to the public to discuss confidential matter, planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims for May, June and July of 2025. The reason for closing the meeting is this report relates to current appeals to the Planning and Environment Court and current compensation claims, and therefore it is recommended the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with section 254J 3E, legal advice obtained by the local government or legal proceedings involving the local government, including, for example, legal proceedings that may be taken by or against the local government of Local Government Regulation of 2012. Can I have somebody move that this meeting be closed to go into confidential, please? Move Councillor Carol Taylor. Seconder, please, Councillor Tim McMahon. All those in favour? Thank you very much. We'll now close the meeting, please. We're back online. Thanks for persevering with us whilst that confidential session was in play. So the motion in front of us is that the confidential report on planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims for May, June and July 2025 be noted by council. Can I have somebody move that, please? Councillor Gary Gardner, a seconder, please. Councillor Jeff McDonald, all those in favour of that motion? Carried unanimously. So that brings us to the conclusion of this meeting. So this meeting will close officially at 9:19 a.m. Thank you for your attendance.
Morning all, welcome to the Water and Waste Committee, 12th of August. I would like to welcome Sal and Jake to the meeting this morning, and also my colleagues. Thank you for your collective wisdom around the table here this morning, and also to staff and those in the gallery and those viewing online. Could I pay my respects to elders past and present, to the Jarowa, Guyabal and Bigambal peoples that are custodians within our region. And if I may take a few moments to reflect on why that's relevant to us here today in the boardroom. And I keep reflecting on the fact that, or hearken back to the fact that First Nations people very, very clearly understood their relationship to country and their relationship to all about us. And I think that's really, really relevant for us as a boardroom, because we are here elected by our community at the behest or request of the community to serve. And that always makes me feel accountable to the fact that we make decisions not separate to or separate from, but we make decisions as part of a collective community. We are naturally part of that. So in that spirit of decision making, and around ethical decision making, it's really, really important that a fundamental principle around that connection as First Nations people clearly understood and out of real necessity. And when we sit, and permit me to say, when we sit and yarn this morning and make deliberation, it's really, really important that we don't forget those principles. And I'm sure, colleagues, there wouldn't be a person in this room that wouldn't agree with collective decision-making in the best interests of our community. After all, we're part of it. So thank you for that small indulgence. I consider it very important. I'm getting a few smiles, so that's okay. Anyway, let's move on to open the meeting. It's already open at 9, let's say 9:20. Item 2, attendance, including apologies, leave of absence and declarations of conflict of interest. We note, or we have an apology from Councillor Edwina Farquhar. So could I have someone, Councillor Trevor, and a seconder? Councillor James. Those in favour? That's carried. There's a noting of leave of absence for Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff. There's no action required there, and I don't have to date any prescribed or declarable conflicts. I wouldn't imagine there would be any, but if something pops up, we need to go to item 3 and closing of the meeting to the public. And the reason why we need to close the meeting to the public, and it's an item, Security of Critical Infrastructure Act 2018, and part of an annual report. And the reasons are that this report discusses matters relating to Security of Critical Infrastructure Act 2018 and its impact on the council business, and therefore it is recommended that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with section 254J 3I. A matter of local government is required to keep confidential under the law or formal arrangement with the Commonwealth or a state of Local Government Regulation 2012. So could I have a mover that we go into Councillor James, seconder? Councillor Gary? Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, gallery. Sarah? Councillors, we have a motion before us, and the motion is that Council endorse the 24-25 Security of Critical Infrastructure Annual Report for submission to the Cyber and Information Security Centre as included in Attachment 1. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Gary? Councillor Melissa? Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Sal, CEO, and General Manager Jake, and Gallery for your patience with being in and out. That concludes the meeting at 9:40 will do, 41 to be exact.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the infrastructure meeting of Toowoomba Regional Council for August. The meeting is open to the public and will be live streamed. I'd like to thank those of you in the room with us today and acknowledge people who may be watching us on Council's social media channels. I'd like to recognise our General CEO, Sal Petrosito, our General Manager, Mike Brady, Marie Gales, who's the Manager of Transport and Drainage Planning, and other General Manager, Jake and Ed, who are in the room, thank you, and our gallery, thank you, Sarah. I'd like to open the meeting. We have attendance and apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Edwina Farquhar, and we will need to have a motion on that. Can I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor James O'Shea, Councillor Trevor Mann-Teufel. Seconded. Those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. We have a leave of absence for Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff, our Deputy Mayor, so no resolution is required. We have a declaration of prescribed conflict of interest in Councillor Gary Gardner for item number 3. And any declarable conflict of interest we have nil advised, but tell us if you need to actually, if something comes up. Councillor Gardner, can I ask you to read your conflict? Thank you.
In relation to item number 3, I request that it be amended that I declare the prescribed conflict of interest in relation to item number 12.4, Toowoomba City Aerodrome, at the ordinary meeting of Council 28th of May 2025, and of my decision to leave the meeting while the matter was discussed and voted on. As a relevant circumstance have not changed, I will leave the meeting while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. So we move to item number 3, which is the Toowoomba City Aerodrome fees and charges. And I just mention here that attachment 4 is a confidential attachment, and any discussion on this attachment, should it need to happen, will need to be done in a closed session. Thank you. I'll hand over to our General Manager, Mike Brady. Thank you.
Good morning, councillors, and hope all well. Through your chair, thank you for the opportunity to present this report. So back in March, councillors, when we adopted the fees and charges for this current financial year that we're now in, we did that with the exception of the full stop landing fees for the Toowoomba City Airdrome. As per the second resolution on that day, this is coming back to you as a separate report, just to deal specifically with the Toowoomba City Airdrome charges, full stop landing fees for this current financial year 25-26. Councillors, over 12 months ago, we had AEC Proprietary Limited do an independent benchmarking study on fees, charges and other costs associated with airdromes. And that was, again, then further developed into a full report that came to council again, I think it was in March, that with the Toowoomba City Airdrome, and to which council adopted the 19 recommendations from that report. Some excerpts from that report are attached as giving the benchmarking and the comparisons against other airdromes in the attachments. We've taken on board some of the feedback that's come back in respect to the increase in fees and charges. One of the outcomes of the discussions on the airdrome over the last couple of years is about how we can move towards a more sustainable commercial direction in respect to the airdrome, making it as much as reasonably possible pay for itself. And so that's had to include, as the other fees and charges and leases and other things have been reviewed at, those have had to see some increases over the last year or two there. In respect to the full stop landing fees, the main change that we've done from March to now is to review the weight stop point or transition point from 4 tonnes to 5.7 tonnes, which just gives a better balance comparatively for use of the larger type aircraft that can use our airdrome. So the proposal from a financial perspective is, though the numbers, when you actually compare it to the previous financial year for the 24-25 year, there's just over approximately a 6% increase in revenue that we get just through this fee and charge, or these full stop landing fees. If it was the exact same aircraft and the exact same landing for the year gone by. Councillors, I'm happy to take any questions through your chair, but the recommendations there.
Mr Mayor?
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Look, I would like to discuss item 4, attachment 4, and therefore happy to move that we go into closed session.
Can I have a mover? We move into closed session. The Mayor, Councillor McDonald, seconded Councillor James O'Shea. Those in favour? It's carried. Thank you.
Just a question. Oh,
Our ordinary meeting next Tuesday. So we've got the motion. Thank you for indulgence outside, and thank you, councillors. Okay. So the motion that was proposed that council adopt the proposed amendment, the 2005-2006 Register of Fees and changes for landing, full stop landing fees at the Toowoomba City Aerodrome as per attachment 1 from September 2025. The new motion is that this matter, and is moved by Councillor Melissa and seconded by the Mayor, that this matter be deferred for consideration at the ordinary meeting of Council on the 19th of August 2025, which is next Tuesday. Everyone's clear on that? No more questions? Those in favour? It's carried, thank you. And that completes the Infrastructure Committee meeting for August. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, good morning, councillors. Again, it's still morning. Welcome to the Environment Community Committee, 12th of August, and welcome to Nick, GM for Environment Community, to Sal, CEO, and councillors. Thank you for your commitment here this morning, and staff and gallery. And welcome to those online who are viewing. I pay my respects to the elders past, present, the Jarawa, Guyabal and Bigambal people, and I acknowledge the songlines that traverse the lands, timeless songlines that have existed, and they are like a pathway or signposts. And for us today, here in 2025, on the 12th of August, may our decisions be like signposts that others, that benefit the community, and that others coming behind us can build a platform on the legacy we leave, and that it is of benefit to community. So with that in mind, I'd like to go to item 2, attendance, including apologies, leave of absence and declarations of conflict of interest. We have an apology from Councillor Edwina Farquhar. Can I have a mover to acknowledge Councillor Melissa, Councillor Jeff? Those in favour? That's carried. We have a leave of absence for Councillor Rebecca. There's no action required there. We have no prescribed conflicts. We have a declaration from Councillor James for a declarable conflict. Over to you, Councillor James.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I do. It is in relation to item 5, confidential strategic land acquisition. So in relation to item 5, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential acquisition of land range escarpment at the Environment and Community Committee meeting of the 17th of November 2020, and of Council's decision to allow me to participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will participate in the decision on the matter, including by voting on the matter.
Thanks, Councillor James. We will move straight into item 3, and that is the authorisation of biosecurity surveillance program 25-26. And I'll hand straight over to the author, Nick Hauser.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. Councillors, this report seeks authorisation to conduct a biosecurity surveillance program for 25-26 in accordance with relevant sections of the Biosecurity Act. That Act requires Council, amongst other things, to ensure invasive biosecurity matter is managed within its local government area. I would highlight that we've been conducting such programs since 2014, 2015, some decade long, and those programs have been largely successful, or they have been successful. The authorisation of the surveillance programs allows our officers entry to properties to conduct the inspections that they're required to do. It's important to note that at no point in the preceding 10 years have we needed to rely on those provisions under the Act. We've always been able to obtain landholder agreement. In fact, they're more than willing to cooperate to ensure that invasive biosecurity matter is managed appropriately throughout the region. So with that, I take the report as read and commend the recommendations to you.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Trebb?
Just clarity, I notice in the report here it goes into lots of weeds and pests and all that, but just for clarity for the general public, that also includes animals if there was an outbreak or something?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yes, for clarity, it means all invasive biosecurity matter, so it's not just weeds, it could also be vertebrate pests, yes.
Councillor James?
Chair, I was just happy to move if there were no further questions.
Okay. No further questions. We've got a mover and a seconder, Councillor Trevor. Those in favour? That's carried. Item 4, closing of the meeting to the public. In fact, it's for item 5 and 6. The reasons are the same. I'll read that out. This is a report that discusses, or reports that discusses matters relating to business for which public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of local government or someone else, and therefore it is recommended that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with section 245J 3G, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would likely prejudice the interests of the local government of the Local Government Regulation 2012. That section G applies for both, and the titles of the report are Strategic Land Acquisition, and the item 6 is acquisition of land for park purposes, Highfield. Do I have a mover and a seconder to close the meeting? Councillor Trevor, Councillor Jeff, those in favour? That's carried. Carried. So councillors, I neglected, my apologies, just to note councillor James's declarable conflict for item 5. So if we move now to the motions that are before us for these, both item 5 and 6, we'll do in that order. With a noting, of course, of councillor James' declaration. May I paraphrase these, General Manager? There's a fair bit here. That we basically authorise the Chief Executive Officer to around the acquisition of the property, and that we authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute the necessary documentation, and that in the event that negotiations are successful, the acquisition be funded from the Park and Bushland Levy Reserve. Is that sufficient, councillors? Move councillor Tim, seconded councillor Carroll. Those in favour? That's. Oh, we need to. Do we need to record? Oh no, that's for next week in general meeting because of our declaration. Yep. Item 6, acquisition of land for the park purposes, Highfields. The motion is that we authorise the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate the acquisition of the property. We authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute the necessary documentation, and in the event that the negotiations are successful, that the acquisition be funded from the Park and Bushland Levy Reserve. Do I have a mover? Councillor Carroll, Councillor Trevor. Those in favour? That's carried. So, councillors, I'm pretty sure that concludes our Environment Committee meeting for the 12th of August. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sal. Thanks, staff. We'll move on to the next.
Well, good morning, councillors and those in attendance and those watching online. This is the Corporate Services Committee for the month of August. Councillor Edwina Farquhar was the nominated person to chair today's committee meeting. Unfortunately, she's an apology. So I call for nominations for those, for someone to chair. Councillor Tim.
Thank you, Chair. May I nominate Councillor O'Shea, please?
Councillor James, you accept that nomination? Seconded by Councillor Melissa. Those in favour? Thank you. Hand over to you.
Good morning, councillors, and welcome up to the Corporate Services meeting for the month of August. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance with us today. So the CEO, Mr. Sal Petrosito, to the Acting General Manager of Corporate Services, Matt Wilcox. So thanks for being with us, as well to all councillors and those present with us today. So first point of business here is we have to look at the tenants, including apologies, leave of absence and declarations of conflict of interest. So an apology for Councillor Edwina Farquhar. So if I could call for a motion that the apology for non-attendance from Councillor Edwina Farquhar to be accepted. Moved by Councillor Melissa Taylor, seconded by Councillor Gary Gardner. Those in favour? So it's carried unanimously. So we have a noting for a leave of absence for Deputy Mayor Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff. So we don't require a resolution for that, as we already have a leave of absence. In terms of declaration of prescribed conflict of interests or declaration of declarable conflict of interests, we have nil advised. Does any have any that they would like to raise at this point? Or if not, obviously, as we go through the meeting, any that do arise, please make them known. I would also like to acknowledge the Aboriginal parties whose songlines traverse the lands that we do meet on today, the Western Waka Waka, Guyabal and Jarrawa peoples, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the knowledge, rich traditions and bold ambitions of Australia's first people. Councillors, we'll move to the reports. The first of those is item 3, which is the report of the Audit Committee meeting of the 4th of June 2025. So I'll hand across to Matt. Thank you.
Good morning, councillors. So through the chair, the report attached is from the previous meeting of the Audit Committee. It is there for your reference and adoption.
Thank you, Acting General Manager. Any questions, councillors, in regards to this item? Councillor McMahon.
Chair, thanks. Morning, Matt. I was picking it up on last night reading this. In the recommendations, number 2 is that councillors, so us, to be provided further training on cybersecurity. And my only kind of link to it in the minutes was around item number 10 that you presented on similar things, and staff have been undertaking stuff. So there's the importance of staff, but there's obviously a link from that to councillors. Could you just explain the background of that and how the recommendation for councillors and how the organisation may implement that? Thanks.
Yes, so thank you for the question. The presentation, as you're correct, in item 10 was around a free cybersecurity training program given to council by the Queensland Government Cybersecurity Unit. They've provided council around 1,700 free licences to a program called Friendly Phishing. We are in the process of rolling that out, and when we were going through with the Audit Committee, Mr Mayor rightfully asked if the councillors could be enabled to participate in that training as well. It is delivered by email, runs through a series of phishing awareness campaigns that not just in people's work lives, but hopefully their personal lives, ensures they're up to date with how scams are rolling out, what to look for, and how to be better prepared to address those for not just ourselves, but the community.
Thank you for the answer. Different type of phishing than I usually get excited about, but looking forward to it.
Thanks, Councillor McMahon. And also there was an email actually that I assume we all received at 10:42 this morning actually, titled "Friendly Phishing" with a PH. So that hopefully helps lead towards that. No further questions, Councillor McMahon. Mayor McDonald.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's going through those recommendations, and the motion is that we endorse those recommendations, and have to say, just from an audit committee perspective, we've got some very worthwhile auditors at the moment who provide a whole lot of insight into the organisation and are willing to roll their sleeves up and help us out wherever they can, as well as running their role as being auditors. So just thought I'd provide that feedback more broadly, and very happy to move the recommendation.
Thanks, Mayor. So I've got a mover of the recommendation. If there are no further questions, I'll ask for a second to that motion. Councillor McMahon. So the motion before us here is that the report of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 4th of June 2025 be received and the recommendations be adopted. Moved by Mayor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Tim McMahon. I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Councillors, we move to item 4 on the agenda. It is the 2024-25 Operational Plan Progress Report year to date, quarter 4. Dave Quinlan, I see steaming towards the front of the room, so I assume GM, hand across to you or straight to Mr. Quinlan.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Good morning, councillors. This morning I'm presenting the Operational Plan Progress Report for Quarter 4 of the 24-25 financial year. Councillors is of course aware that it's a statutory requirement for us to have a 5-year corporate plan and an annual operational plan, and we must report at least quarterly against that operational plan. Operational plan reporting is done year to date, and therefore the Quarter 4 report that you see is effectively the operational plan report for the entire 24-25 financial year. The operational plan report does need to be considered in combination with Council's financial reporting. The financial reporting is not duplicated in the operational plan report. The operational plan does represent stretch targets, and while Council can by resolution amend the operational plan during the year, we only did very, very small amendments during the year this year, and only very marginal changes at that. This does mean that yes, we do have some red crosses and some items showing up as monitor, but I would point out that some of the targets were quite challenging. Indeed, the operational performance against the operational plan itself was set with a target of 100% because that's what we were aiming for, but that would mean I'd have to have entirely all green ticks right through the report to get 100%, and so we have fallen within the tolerance of that 100%, but obviously it is showing up as monitor in the report. In saying that, we have achieved 93% of specific actions and projects either being on track or monitor, and 94% of our key performance indicators either being on track or monitor. And with that, Mr Chair, I might pass back to you for any questions.
Thanks, Dave. So, councillor, so that's the report. Are there any questions in regards to this item? So, noting that we do have several general managers in the room with us here as well to assist with that. So they're ready, willing and able, they assure me. So are there any questions regarding this? Councillor McMahon.
Thanks, Chair. I thought I'd form an orderly line, but only one. Chair, can I ask a question, but also a comment that one of the notable green ticks was, and you'd probably, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder here, but for Carnival of Flowers, we set ourselves 350,000 attendance. And we actually hit 470,000, and that's a huge well done to everyone, way over projected attendance. That's in the prosperity one, third one in for the IT guys. My question after that is just around right down the bottom. I've got to find it again. It's page 28. We saw of importance to put that we get a new council in March 2024, and we probably ought to run them through the new corporate plan that it's start of their term and it's just been done for this term, and you've probably got to get your head around it. We haven't done that yet, and we're gonna reprioritise it this year, which is fine, but probably like alignment to the corporate plan is probably of fairly importance, Dave, and just wondering timelines for getting that happening.
Through you, Mr Chair. Certainly, councillor, the decision was made in last fiscal year to delay the review of the corporate plan until this year. It was thought when we were putting the corporate plan together that there may be a need to review post the election in 24. And it is true that the corporate plan is somewhat out of date now in some of the photographs, and there are a couple of little things we would like to change in an administrative sense. That doesn't go so far as the broader changes that we may make, and I might pass to the CEO in terms of a broader review.
Thank you, Dave, and through you, Chair. So in discussions that I've had with Dave and also the Mayor, Council would be aware that we have a 5-year fixed corporate plan. And in my initial review of that document, I feel that probably it's more appropriate that we do some minor rats and mice amendments before we undertake a full midlife review, which would probably be due next year. So the proposal that's been put forward is that we tidy up the current document to make it accurate, to reflect the current structure of the organisation, both from positions, people and individuals, but then take our time to then do a fulsome mid-year review next year, Councillor. And in that regards, will then put us instead for the remainder of that term, and that's the proposal that's been put forward. We will focus our energies on the operational plan. The operational plan, as you know, needs to be done each year, and we're in the process, or that's already been endorsed. So we're working through the work on that. I don't see value in doing a full fundamental review of the corporate plan at this point.
Thank you, Sal. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Councillor McMahon. Any further questions, councillors, in regards to this item? Mayor McDonald?
I'll just make a comment. More than happy to move this, given where we sat through the course of the year with the ex-tropical cyclone Alfred. There's been a change in leadership from a CEO perspective. We've had GMs all sharing that role. We've had interim CEO, acting CEOs. I would suggest to you that the result and the performance of the organisation, operationally, if you look at percentages, is an extraordinary performance, and one that I applaud the organisation for keeping a laser focus on making sure that we commit to delivering the services we have for the community. That said, this term, as the councillors have all been in agreement to, is around doing things differently for better, and we maintain that. And that's where we head. And that's why I'm encouraged by the CEO's comments around the corporate plan and Councillor McMahon's interest and all of our interest in that, because that is the blueprint for 5 years. That said, with the changes that are being implemented and will be implemented, it's timely midway through that we do revisit it. And therefore I applaud it. I thank the organisation for committing to what has been achieved in what has been quite an extraordinary last financial year, and therefore I'm happy to move the recommendation, Chair.
Thanks, Mayor. So I'll take that as a move if there are no further questions on this. So we'll ask for a seconder of it, Councillor McMahon. So the recommendation is that Council note the organisational performance as outlined in the 24-25 operational plan progress report year to date. So moved by Mayor McDonald, seconded by Councillor McMahon. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. Thanks, Dave. Councillors, we move to item number 5 on the agenda here, and this is the non-current asset policy. So I assume, Matt, you'll handle this one, so I'll hand across to yourself.
Thank you, Chair. So in a brief introduction to this policy has been reviewed. It was last adopted on the 15th of September 2020. It went through consultation in May this year. There is a material change to the value of heritage assets, moving from $10,000 to $5,000. That is to align with the Queensland Treasury Corp's non-current asset policy. So this brings us in line with that policy. We are seeking a resolution as the Local Government Regulation of 2012, Section 206, requires that any change to a different or non-current physical asset below which the value of an asset of the same type must be treated as an expense, that we require a resolution of Council. And for a little piece of background, the heritage assets make up approximately $15 million of our $7 billion worth of assets. So this change will have no significant impact.
Thanks, Acting General Manager. So, councillors, that's the report, so the attachments are there as well. Does anybody have any questions in regards to this particular item? Councillor Carl?
It's probably a broader question through you, Chair, maybe to Sal. I mean, as local government evolves and the regulators set these amounts, there wouldn't be a local government in this country that isn't experiencing some degree of difficulty, varying degrees of difficulty in providing the breadth of services we do, owning the amount of assets we do, managing the whole of life costs around that and depreciation and replacement. I guess, what am I trying to... Could you, it's probably crystal ball, but gee, it'd be nice to think there'd be some flexibility around these figures and the accounting measures they apply, because it appears to be a one-size rigid fits all.
Through you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor. I am aware that the state actually is embarking on a review of how it does treat depreciation, and we will be participating in that review in due course. There is also some work currently being undertaken at a federal level as well. It is a pressure point, not only across this councillor, but others. And you are correct, there probably does need to be some probably more contemporary views on how those particular accounting standards are treated, but we will participate in that review. We've expressed our concerns also federally to the shadow member, and she said she would take that back. It is something that we need to address because we are locking away a lot of funds. We'll keep you informed as to how that review goes ahead.
Yeah, I just consider some of the infrastructure and the life expectancy that we have on that, and the way things have changed. Pick core stuff like roads or sewage or water, or life expectancy around that sort of stuff, as opposed to assets in different sectors. It's a really it's a high bar in my view. I think we can't swim in our separate streams anymore in provision of critical infrastructure to communities. There needs to be a load sharing across all levels of government. I mean, that's probably an overarching statement, and maybe it mightn't change in my lifetime, but one could always hope, and I'm pleased to see that we're at the table and we're advocating. So.
Thanks, Councillor Carl. If there are any further questions in regards to this item, there is a recommendation, and it is that Council adopts the revised 2.51 non-current asset policy. So do I have a mover of that particular motion? Moved by Councillor Carl, seconded by Councillor Gardner. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried. So, councillors, that concludes the Corporate Services Committee meeting. If I can just add a couple of quick remarks, if you'll indulge me to finish. Thank you, Matt, to you, obviously, for stepping in and filling in this role. But not only that, I think also all of the work that yourself and your team is doing around the very important issue that we've spoken a bit about today, around obviously cybersecurity and everything in that field that is so important. And I think your work has been outstanding in the changes that we've seen there. So thank you very much to yourself, and a chance to acknowledge you. And also I'd just like to acknowledge our council's customer service team that does an incredible job, obviously on the front line at times when there's difficult times, obviously, that our community or council is facing. We have a dedicated group of staff there that are doing their very best each and every time to service our community, and obviously also to assist us within council. So I think it's important to acknowledge their effort, and that they know that that we see and understand the work that they do and what they go through, and their commitment to this community and to this organisation. So I'd like to say a big thank you to them as well. And with that, I'll conclude the Corporate Services Committee meeting. So we'll now move to the Mayor.
Good morning, councillors, and welcome to the Economic Development Committee for August. It's my great pleasure to open the meeting and acknowledge all councillors present. We'll cover off some apologies shortly to our CEO, Sal Petrosito, OAM. Thank you, Sal, and the general managers in the room as well. Thank you, and those in the room and watching online. Do appreciate that very much indeed. We do acknowledge that there are no items in the Economic Development Committee. However, there is also the structural methods and formats to go through from a recording perspective. So we'll open the meeting and start with an apology from Councillor Edwina. Someone moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Carroll. Those in favour? Motion's moved unanimously, carried unanimously. We then have a leave of absence from Councillor Rebecca. There's no resolution required. As I say, councillors, there are no items for economic development for this month. I will say that through the course of discussions with various chambers of commerce and Toowoomba Strat Basin Enterprise and our team, that the incentives that Council approved a month or so ago are starting to filter through to those areas, and we'll see some fruits of that coming through very soon. So I'm very pleased about that and acknowledge all the work that Anthony Holsworth, as the Economic Development Manager, is doing, he and his team. So thank you, councillors. We'll conclude the meeting.